In my What I Spend in a Week video, I mentioned that I'd be happy to share a little bit more about how much things cost as it relates to bills and utilities. So that's what I'm going to share in today's video. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about taxes because I do work and live in Barbados full time. I work for the University of the West Indies, like I mentioned in a few of my videos. So I'm going to share on income tax, the NIS contribution, and then dive into what my monthly utilities and bills are, so that you can have some context and some insight as to the cost of living. And so I'll just dive right in. Alright, so I'll talk a little bit about income tax and NIS because obviously when I receive my salary, those are the first things that come out. So when you work in Barbados, it's not like in other countries where you're responsible for submitting taxes and paying your own income tax. Your employer actually deducts it out of your salary and it automatically goes to the government. So you don't even get to see that money at all unless you're self-employed. But if you work for an institution, or if you work for a company or a government agency, or if you work for someone like I do, it just automatically is deducted from your salary. So if you make $25,000 or less, your income tax bracket requires that you pay 16% of your salary. So 16% of your salary comes out if you make $25,000 Bajan or under. If you make anything above $25,000, you're taxed 33.5%. So I fall within that bracket. So 33.5% of my salary is income taxable, and that comes up to 1643.98. So that's what's taken out for and they call it PAYE, which is basically income tax. So if you get a salary slip at the end of the month and you see PAYE, that's what that is. It's basically income tax for the government. So the second thing that comes out of your salary on a monthly basis is the NIS contribution. In Barbados, healthcare is free for every person who lives and resides and works here. And so the people who do work, even if you're self-employed, you're required to make an NIS contribution. The NIS contribution is a bit less because it's a mutual contribution made by your employer and you. Unless, of course, if you're self-employed, then you have to make the full contribution. But if you work for someone, your employer pays 13% and you pay 11%. So my NIS contribution is $1,149.57. So 13% of that my employer pays and 11% of that I pay. And I'll leave a link that explains the breakdown of both the income tax and the NIS contribution in the description box below. Okay, so now that I've already given the government all the money that they require from me, my monthly utility bills is broken down by basically 4 things. So fortunately for me, in the apartment that I rent, I don't have to pay light and I don't have to pay internet or cable. Those come in within my rent, but my rent for the month totals to $1,500. I pay an extra $20 because I want HBO, but the rent is $1,500 and it includes water and it includes internet and it includes my cable. Other than that, my utilities are light, phone, and gas. And when I say gas, I don't mean gas for the house because that's also included. And I think also when you live on the West Coast, a lot of the houses are connected to the natural gas main that the government provides in this area. I think I might be explaining that wrong, but I don't have to pay gas for my house. When I say gas, I mean gas for my vehicle. So my first utility bill outside of rent is, my biggest utility bill I should say outside of rent is my light bill. My light bill fluctuates on a monthly basis because I do have air conditioning in my bedroom. Sometimes I use the air conditioning, sometimes I don't. But on an average, I say I pay between $50 and $70 for the month. Because like I mentioned, I live alone and I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. I have all my full amenities. So I have a full stove, I have a full fridge, I have a washer and a dryer. I have a television. I'm thinking about all the major appliances that would suck up energy. The air conditioning in my room is an inverter, so it doesn't pull that much energy. So that's why my bill is around $50 to $70. But for this month, my bill was $71.59. So moving on to my phone bill, I pay $75 a month on a postpaid contract. So I have my phone contract with Digicel. There are a couple providers on the island, but the most popular are Flow and Digicel. I have a contract with Digicel and it's a postpaid contract. So for the month, when I pay $75, I get 5 gigabytes of data and I think around 300 minutes of calling and unlimited texting, I think. And the bonus about my contract, what I really like, is that it rolls over. So if I don't use anything, it rolls over to the other month. So if I only use 2 gigabytes of data, then my remaining 3 gigabytes rolls over. But sometimes I do go above the limit that I'm given in my plan, and there are additional charges. So for this month, my bill was $86.22, which isn't bad because sometimes 5 gigabytes sounds like a lot, but sometimes when I'm using my phone to stream Netflix, if I'm in public waiting in a line or whatever, it can consume a lot of your data. So my bill does fluctuate as well, but it has a baseline of $75. And I think when you get here, you could shop around. You can look at the different rates. There are persons who go the prepaid option where you pay as you go. I didn't want to go that route because I tend to be quite forgetful and I forget, oh, I have to buy credit or I have to do this. And so having a plan that just automatically renews itself is a whole lot more convenient for me. So yeah. My last bill is my bill for my car. So I have a very small vehicle. I have a Suzuki Jimny, so it doesn't use a lot of gas, and especially now that we're in the pandemic and we're not really going around as much, I don't spend a lot on gas. So I tend to buy $100 of gas every 2 weeks. That fills up my tank, but that is not the norm. It depends on what kind of vehicle you have. It depends on where you live, if you have to travel far for work, if you do a lot of driving. And I also find that when you go to the gas station, it's not like in other countries where there's a listing that shows this is how much gas is for today. That's not how it is here for some reason. I don't know why. You have to ask the gas attendant how much is gas today or what's the cost of gas today. But typically for my little Jimny, $100 fills the tank and it lasts me for about 2 weeks. Bear in mind, I don't really use the air conditioning. I live in a very central place. I live on the West Coast and I've not been doing as much driving as I usually do. When the pandemic wasn't a thing and I was doing a lot more driving, I would fill my tank up to past where it clicks. You know when you're filling your gas tank and it clicks, but then you could add a little more. It would go up to I think around $130, and that would last me around about a week. So gas can be a bit pricey, but it all depends on the variables that I mentioned earlier. And those are my main utility bills, and that's how much I pay in taxes. Like I mentioned throughout the video, a lot of how much you spend is depending on a few things. So where you live, how much money you make on a monthly basis, what your lifestyle is like, what you're accustomed to. But this should give you an idea of what a single woman who lives in Barbados and works full-time spends on a monthly basis. And all of that totals to, and I'm getting out my calculator, so including taxes and my NIS contribution and my monthly utility bills, it totals to $4,671.36, which is a lot saying it out loud. I actually never realized that that's how much money I spend on my bills and taxes. And I don't even consider that spending because, like I mentioned, these are essentials that you need to rent, to pay light, to use your phone, and to get around. And then of course the contribution and taxes that the government takes out. Hopefully this gives you some more perspective about the cost of living. If you'd like more videos like this, please let me know in the comments. I know that a few persons have asked me more about the rental prices around the island. I'm not an expert at this, so I always tend to just recommend visiting Carib List and Barbados Property Search. I'll also leave those in the description box below. And that's it. I hope this video was helpful. Let me know if you want to see more cost of living type videos like this, and I'll see you in my next one.